This is part 3 of Dope House Records Unreleased albums. On part 1, we took a look at Walking on Water by 24/7 Hustlers and Most Valuable Player by Pimp Stress. On part 2, we took a look at Blackjack, No Love, No Peace by Low G and Will Watchers by Hillwood Hustlers. The 5th album that was never released is part of the Screwston series. It was called Slow Learner. For those of you who remember, this album was being promoted in the year 2010. There was also a snippet that was released. If you want to listen to the snippet, you can find it on YouTube. There were 17 songs on the Slow Learner snippet. Some of the artists it featured were SPM, Coast, Low G, Chingo Bling, Quota, Lucky Luciano, Trey, Baby Bash, Grimm, and others. Over the years, we realized that Dope House Records and Beltway Records were both releasing albums under the name Screwston. Screwston albums that were released by Dope House Records were always on point. This was a Screwston album that everyone was looking forward to. We saw 2 different covers for the album, and both of them were dope. I wonder if Dope House Records will ever release the album, and if they don't, will they release some of the songs individually? Maybe on compilations or other projects. That would be cool. It would be good if Dope House Records released the project or released the songs so that they didn't go to waste. I know that they are still releasing Screwston albums because the last one was Slow City. Let me know what Screwston albums you own, and let me know if you remember this album being talked about. The 6th album that was never released is TBZ 2 by Twin Beredaz. Their self-titled debut album is widely respected and has earned them a loyal fan base, which has TBZ 2, Coast and Quota as one of their most anticipated albums of 2006. That's crazy. This album was supposed to be released in 2006, and Dope House Records never released it. If you own the first Twin Beredaz album, you know that this album was going to be dope as well. The JVAS Show recently interviewed Cassette Coast, and this is what he had to say. Coast said that Dope House Records has the album because it was turned in, and Coast himself has a copy of it. He hopes that Dope House Records never puts it out. We'll see what they decide. Type the JVAS Show on YouTube to watch the interview. Let me know if you own the first Twin Beredaz album, and let me know if you want the sophomore album to be released. The 7th album that was never released was The 4th Wish to Sprinkle the World by Lucky Luciano. This was supposed to be his 2nd album under Dope House Records. There was some promotion behind this album. Dope House Records was promoting it, as well as Lucky Luciano. By this time, Lucky Luciano already had his label, Steak and Shrimp Records. He was putting out mixtapes, he was working with other artists, he was getting paid for features, and being featured on compilations. The song Swimming Pool was supposed to be on the 4th Wish to Sprinkle the World album. But because that was not released, Lucky Luciano released it on his label, Steak and Shrimp Records, on the album Pimps Up. I am not sure if the album was completed, but I know that it was going to be a dope album. Take a look at 2004, 2005, 2006. Lucky was steak and shrimping it up. He was talking that talk and backing it up.
Prices just went up, status keep changing every damn day.
There's a possibility that Dope House Records has some of these songs on the archives, and maybe one day we'll get to hear them. Let me know if this was an album you were looking forward to, and let me know if you still jam the Lucky Luciano. This concludes part 3 of Dope House Records Unreleased albums. In total, we looked at 7 different albums that were never released by Dope House Records. Let me know some of the albums that you were looking forward to but were never released. Let's start a conversation in the comments. One last thing, keep it player, don't be a hater.